back to Not Too Cool to Read. My name is Kira. Today we are reading Kamau and Zuzu Find a Way, written by Aracelis Girmay and Diana Ejaita. I know I pronounced those names wrong, but we're going to read it anyway. To people everywhere in the diaspora, to our lost, to the wayfinders, the refuge makers, flowering all around us still, AG, and to Matilda Folade, may all the love you bring be a good seed to feel at home in yourself and everywhere you go, DE. Ooh. Nobody knows how it happened. Mama Zuzu says she woke up one morning and she and her grandchild were on the moon. I must have fallen asleep because I woke up right here in my chair, a book at my feet, and you warm against my belly. Kamau did not remember his first home, so he did not miss it the way that Zuzu did. He was so happy rolling down hills and studying moon rocks and dreaming about stars. But this moon was so different from their village that from the moment they landed, Zuzu knew it would take time to make a home for her grandchild out of this new place. To begin, she observed. She studied the light and touched her hand gently to the ground. "Hello there, sister," she said. Then she dug rows into the moon crust and began to plant. First, she planted a kernel of corn and a clothespin that was still in her apron. Another day, she planted the photograph of her mother and a square of cloth that she always kept tucked inside her book. With time, from those rows, all kinds of things grew. From the kernel grew moon corn, but also moonbeams. And from the photograph of Zuzu's mother grew a large quilt of stars to keep them warm. From the clothespin grew trees, mango, cashew, and willow. And from the square of cloth, a wide and silent kite. And also a flock of birds and a very small meadow of flowers. And once, when Zuzu was missing their family back home, her tears ran in long streams down her cheeks before gathering at the edge of her chin and falling softly onto the ground. Where those tears fell, a deep well of water for drinking began to form. Kamau grew older and learned to plant and listen. He sang a song into the rows, and out of those rows grew a radio that played the sounds of hands on drums and horns and people singing. And to this Zuzu dance, she shimmied and shook, spun slowly in circles with one hand on her hip and her hand on her heart. She danced sad and she danced happy, and all kinds of feelings around and in between. Kamau watched her and could tell that she was with him, but also far away. He felt sad for her and happy for her, and all kinds of feelings around and in between. Meanwhile, back home, Kamau, every time I say this name, I say something different. Meanwhile, back home, Kamau's family searched every shadow and every room for Kamau and Mama Zuzu. They knocked on the doors of their neighbors and searched every road and path out of the village. They searched the nearest city and all the villages along the way. For days, then weeks, then years, Kamau's parents, aunties, uncles, cousins, and neighbors said a version of these words wherever they went. My sweet Mama Zuzu, my sweet child Kamau, have you seen them? Have you seen? Morning after morning after morning, until one day, with the fog settling softly on Kamau's father's shoulders as he worked, a letter materialized in his pocket, seemingly out of the blue. It began, "Hello, anybody out there? I am with Mama Zuzu on the moon." Kamau's father flew up the road to find Mama Tiny at the market. Then they ran together to tell their other children, sisters, brothers, and neighbors. They shouted to anyone who would listen, the cat, the plants, even the tea kettle. They are all right. They have sent word. They are all right. They have sent word. That very hour, Kamau and Zuzu's family began to write letters of their own. They took them to the post office, but nobody there knew what to do. A letter to the moon? How would it get there? The workers called everyone they knew, hoping to solve this puzzle. Inside of Kamau's sister, a quiet idea began to form. Out of the window one night, she climbed and rode her bike down to the sea. She wrote her letter into the sand and watched the water slowly take the letters away. The sea spoke back to her in strong hushes. She listened for a long while, and then, though she couldn't explain why, she dropped a pepper and pumpkin seed into the cool, wet darkness. One rainy afternoon, several days later, Kamau's sister received a letter in return. Mama Zuzu filled that letter with every word she knew for love and thanked her granddaughter for the pepper and the pumpkin seed, which she would use to make stew for Kamau. From then on, everyone knew to carry their messages for Kamau and Zuzu to the sea. They wrote words, they brought colors and shells, and Kamau and Zuzu knew to write their messages gently onto the moon's dusty surface. As sometimes happens with mysteries, they couldn't explain it, but it was so. These letters did not make the distance any less great, but they had found a way to know each other. Zuzu taught Kamau all the ways of gardening and speaking that she knew. They would often sit and look out into the big, bright blue of back home, and he would ask his questions, and she would tell him everything she could. The noises, the fruits, the camels, the sea. It was so hard to picture certain things. One day, we'll get there, Zuzu would say, believing it. For now, Kamau would swallow the history of his world in tiny swallows passed down from his Zuzu, who loved him so mightily that he could feel his whole family's love coming through. This is not what I would have chosen, Zuzu sometimes thought to herself, raising a boy so far away from his family. None of the roads back home lead here, but we will have to find a way to live as people do. Sometimes, about the way she said, live, always filled Kamau's blood up with sun. Look at you, Kamau, a boy growing up on the moon. No one could think it. You are outside the realm of what anyone thought could be. Zuzu would hug him up or squeeze his nose with affection then, and they would work in the garden, or he would tell her a story, or they'd look out into space at where they'd come from. Finding a way to live as people do. Yeah, I completely mispronounced the names. Um, but this was a nice story. And it kind of makes me feel like it's one of those stories that have meanings, or like in someone's culture, like this is a story that's passed down from generations and told. I don't know what it means, but I'm probably going to think about it a lot in the next few days. But thank you for watching and reading.